All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 16th day of December 2019. Well, if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. And check out my blog over at imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside. It's a witch blog, herbalism blog, and all of that, various things that I'm interested, you'll find over there. I did not finish the correspondences yet for today. Those will go up by noon, though. And in that one, if you're not familiar with it, I do usually it's almost daily. It's not every single day, but at least Monday through Thursday, sometimes Monday through Friday. I did that. I think I did one on Friday this last week rather. It's basically correspondences for magic and witchcraft. And then that's down at the bottom, and then up at the top, more correspondences, but they have to do with the current astrological outlook and current energies of the day and whatnot, current numerology and stuff like that. So the top part changes, but the bottom part remains consistent for each day. So depending on the day, you'll have the day's correspondences down at the bottom. So if you're working magic, you can just check into that, and if you don't want to look through your grimoire and try to unearth whatever's in there, it's just kind of a listing of the correspondences that I take into account when I work magic. So you'll find those there on the correspondences and astro information on the blog. The weekly Rune and Moon, though, is up. It's posted not just at the blog, but I think I also posted it over on Patreon, also on Medium. And I'm also in a little group over there on Medium called Soul and Sea, so you might check that stuff as well over there. I don't post every day in that, but I'll cross-post certain things over there and sort of fit with what they're talking about, and the rest of it just goes on Medium as well as on my blog. I tend to cross-post over there, so you can find most of the stuff I write over there. Lately, not quite as much, but I've kind of been spreading things out a little bit. But the Patreon site, now that one is that's a patron site, and the tiers I have are very low. They're $1 a month or $3 a month or $5 a month, and with each one, I guess you get a little bit more contact. I don't know. I may just set all that stuff to just be pay whatever you want. I don't know. It's a interesting site, but lots of cool things over there. Lots of cool people to support, and so basically, some people set the tiers much higher. But I'm just a blogger, and this just is going to help offset blog costs and stuff like that. Because believe it or not, you buy little things to hook into your blog, and that costs, and the blog costs, and all of that. So that's why I did it. So anyhow, also check out the affiliates page on my blog and see if you're interested in anything there. I'm one of those affiliate people to help monetize my blog a little bit and earn a little income from it. So in any event, look for my tweets regarding things like that on Twitter and also on the Stepping Aside Facebook page, and see what's there. You might be interested. So let's see. There was a bind rune for unification that went up on Saturday. I've been trying to do a bind rune every Saturday for folks, just to give people an idea of what that is, and to use it if you want to. Not for commercial use or anything, but for personal use, it's fine. Also, there's one on Hele aspects. It's an aspect pattern, the Hele aspect pattern. And there were two of them that were essentially the same. There was just one point that was different. And so I wanted to look at how they were. And they actually ended up being, although they were sort of headed in the same direction, the method of getting there was different. And one had to do with Uranus and one had to do with Vesta. So that's kind of interesting too. And I did cross-post that over on Medium and on Patreon. So either that or just go to the blog. It's cool. Anyway, it's the 16th day of the month, so we're talking a 7 energy, 3 energy for the month. If you combine the two, then you're looking at what 7 and 3 is 10, so new beginnings. If you take into account the year, that's also a 3. So we're talking 4 again for structure, foundation. But if we just want to look at the day itself, we're talking a 7 energy, and so we're talking about balance. Think the scales. Try to observe today more, I would say, and allow the scales to settle out, to balance out, and watch how that happens and observe the messages there rather than interacting so much. Today's a Monday, so emotions are kind of high today, being a Monday, so Moon's in the seventh house in Leo. It's kind of suggesting that you want to cut loose and have a little fun with a partner today. Seventh house is about partnership and marriage and all of that. So, and Leo is just, fun times for all. So yeah, cut loose and have some fun with a partner. Moon trine the sun, you feel loved and supported today. In conjunct Pluto, though, you might want to keep your feelings to yourself. It might, again, be a day for overreacting. And there may be, sometimes we rise to the occasion, or we take the bait, or we react to something before we really understand the nature of it, and so we might want to avoid jumping to conclusions and then, taking the bait and maybe getting upset about something that really isn't what we thought it was. So kind of hold back a little bit there. If you start feeling like you want to express yourself, there's maybe a little more to the story than what you realize. So just sort of be observant and see what happens in that respect. Sun is in the 11th house of Sagittarius. You're going to look to friends and associates to maybe reassess your goals and where you're going and all of that, getting input from friends. Mercury's in the 10th house in Sagittarius, also Sagittarius, expanding knowledge with respect to profession, maybe to seek an advanced position. We've kind of been talking about that lately, either with the cards or with the astrology, where maybe your job is in flux. Either you're looking for a different position, or maybe you're looking to advance where you are, and maybe things are looking good in that regard for you. Let's see, a semi-square with Venus, though, you might find today your creative process is interfered with. Again, it could just be one of those energetic waves that passes through in our lives, like a biorhythm chart. So, maybe you're down in the valley. You could go online if you don't have a biorhythm app on your iPad or whatever. You could go online to a biorhythm place and just put in your information and see what your biorhythm is today. And I'll bet creativity is going to be low. And so that's probably all it is. So just again, allow the waves to pass and to move into a different position, and then find something else to do that doesn't really, if your creativity is thwarted that way today, just find something else to do that's maybe a little more routine, just to pass the time until that phase passes. Let's see, Mars in the 9th house in Scorpio, kind of maybe a spiritual approach today. Semi-square with between Mars and Jupiter. Again, you may rise to the occasion when you shouldn't. So again, that sort of aligns with Mercury semi-square with Venus. So again, just sort of take the observation approach in that position of the 7 today and let things settle out before reacting. Jupiter 11th house in Scorpio, but Capricorn. Circle of friends is expanding with like-minded people. You might want to get something going with some of them or all of them today. Maybe a new project starting. Let's see. Lastly, Saturn 12th house in Capricorn. Building your career is important today, but maybe behind the scenes. Maybe your career is something that's behind the scenes. Maybe you're someone who's in a support position, and you've got all kinds of ways to advance within that type of structure. Some people aren't comfortable being out in the limelight. They like to take, they're going to have their own limelight, basically, at being incredibly good at their job. But it's a job that supports people. It's in a support position, and it's necessary. So I don't want people to think, oh, well, that's just not, something that is as good. If you invert the pyramid in terms of an employment structure, instead of having the boss at the top, you have the employees at the top. And so, lots of room to shine in those positions. One thing I wanted to say, though, you can look at a chart and just look at the quadrants, the 4 quadrants. And right now we're in the 4th. Most of the planets are sitting in the 4th quadrant together. And planetary bodies are in that. I mean, it's not that there aren't some scattered around, there are, but there's a whole big the bunch of the biggest bunch of them are in that quadrant. So in the 10th, 11th, and 12th houses. So you could just look at that and see that it's suggesting somebody that's goal-oriented, but also a humanitarian or someone that's has a tendency to follow one's own path. It's likely the Sagittarian influence is also affecting that as well. So I mean, even if you didn't look at anything else and you just looked at where are they all grouped? Where's most of the planets right now? What quadrant or what hemisphere? Which were you born at night or were you born in the day? And that means something. And so you could just simply look at where they are and not even look at what they are and get kind of an idea of what's going on for that day. And I think that and I just wanted to first say what I found and then mention that. And I think that it really is true. I think that overall today's a day where we're going to blaze our own trail, and we're just going to want to do it though with friends and with relationships and like-minded people. So in any event, let's go ahead and get started and take our first 3 cards. If I need to take a 4th, I will. I'm going to do it randomly and take the 13th card each time, and then we'll take a rune, and then we'll do a geomancy rune to round things out. So where are my geomancy runes? There they are. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and take our first 3 cards. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. About dropped one there. Well, we have the 2 of Cups. I'm just going to put them down real quick and then we'll go back and look at them. I'm going to likely arrange this again in a yod fashion. That worked so well that one day, and I've been doing it ever since, just to try to find one that is the real focal point of the reading. Three of Pentacles. Diligently working our craft for people to see. 3s are interactive, aren't they? Oh, we have the 10 of Swords. We had this last week. Well, let's see, 2, 3, and 10. So 1, 2, 3. That's interesting. We'll put the 10 first. We have a little pattern here of 1, 2, 3. So we have a 6 energy, higher self. I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that the 10 of Swords in the center and call that the significator. And then we'll look at that first. And then we'll look at the 2 and the 3 below. Maybe we're going to call this the causative factor today, and then we'll see what happens as a result. I think I'm going to take a 4th card. But here we have the 10 of Swords. We see the swords as the air element, so our intellect, our reason. It can be about truth. It can be about deception. Legal things, justice. But here we have 10 swords piercing the back of an individual, and it looks like a man on the water's edge in the sand there. He's dead. But his head is turned toward the sunrise or to the light returning. We don't see the sun yet, but we see the light returning there. The dark clouds are beginning to scatter. We've pretty much gone as far as we can go here with the 10 of Swords. Basically, you're talking about massive grief here, the end of illusion. It's one of those moments of realization where you get it, where if you've been deceived, you suddenly know what the truth of that is. Usually though, it's not necessarily about something other people are doing. It's about the end of self-deception. I know that we live in a reactive type of experience where we want to blame other people for what's going on or divorce ourselves from responsibility for things. We tend to speak in the passive voice of, oh, this happened instead of I did that. Well, that thing happened. You know, we don't really own our own participation in making it happen. So that's what I mean about the passive voice. And the thing about tarot is we can look at it that way. We can look at it in terms of all these things that are going to happen to us, or we can think of it in terms of what are we manifesting. And I think that it makes more sense if you believe, as I do, that we create everything we see at every given moment. It really has to come from an inner standpoint. So here, this is about the end of self-deception or self-illusion. We turned our head in another direction. We're facing the light now. What we couldn't see before, we can see now. And we look at how life has been, and generally speaking, it's been difficult, hasn't it? Unfortunately, sometimes, I mean, everybody gripes about government, right? But sometimes government can be so strange. Usually it happens in another country. It doesn't usually happen here, not this way. I mean, we're always going to have, the other party in place, and those that aren't of that party are going to be worried, and, what are they, and watching, and what are they going to do, and all that. But usually until, 9/11 and beyond, we didn't have so much that was happening that I mean, there were moments, like Iran-Contra, we had big moments along the way, but it wasn't a daily diet of it, right? Where you really didn't know what was going on. And so we've had all this conflict, we'll say. I watched a little short clip on Twitter of this guy. I mentioned this the other day, last week, and it was upsetting because I'm an empath. I could feel what he was feeling, and he was so distraught. Well, he's a supporter of the current guy, and he had a Thanksgiving dinner where it was either at his house, or I think it was at his house. And there must have been, a variety of folks there, shall we say, and things evidently didn't go well. And it was very, very upsetting to him. And he wasn't saying that he wanted everybody to think the way he did, just that basically he was saying his heart was broken, that things weren't normal anymore. And I think that he just felt that loss, and God love him, he went and he made a video of it, and they posted it. I think that what we have here with the Ten of Swords is that, all right, where maybe we've just had a holiday, we're about to have another one next week, and we need to, put an end to the self-deception and the illusion that we've been living under, and come back into harmony with other people and heal the wounds. We see in the Two of Cups, we see the winged lion above, lion energy, healing energy. We see the caduceus below, the coiled snakes, sort of redefining our structure, our DNA. When we're not, it's only a small part of it, this part of our energy that's focused into these bodies. The rest of us remains expansive, part of source energy, right? And together in that energy, we're one. We only appear different here in form. We're actually not. And so it's almost like when we are at such loggerheads, when we're in such conflict with one another, when we are operating under such self-delusion, nothing good comes of that, right? And so at some point, though, with the 10, there's a sense of new beginnings, because 10 reduces to 1. And so that's about unity, wholeness, new beginnings, a new day, all of that. One is like the Degas moment in people's lives, the 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark. That one period is ending and another is beginning. Well, maybe the end of conflict, now that all of this stuff is coming to fruition this week. We have the impeachments going to happen this week. And so some things are coming to an end and some things are beginning, in a sense, although it's a fluid process, of course, but you can see where you're going to have a moment, a pause moment, where something now shifts into another format, another direction, right? Another kind of resonance. But here we have a chance with truth. Oh, and I talked about this, was it last week or the week before, where you see oftentimes in tarot a demarcation line between what was and what is now. You see that? Again, that's referencing the two as well. Polarity is balancing. You could say that within the balanced polarity, the masculine and feminine polarity within, the projective and receptive presence or polarity within is healing. With the masculine side reaching out toward the feminine. To bring things back in balance, to bring things into reciprocity, and to heal the differences that have been plaguing us. To reach out with, the strength of how shall I say this? It takes strength to be vulnerable. It takes strength to reach out and say, I'm sorry. It takes strength to bare your soul to another person. It isn't a weakness to share what's going on in your life. That's a moment of strength, to be able to look within and express those feelings, no matter how upset you are, no matter whether it's grief or joy, no matter what it is, to be able to express that to another person takes great strength. So it's not whatever's happening here, he's not giving in. He's aligning with that other person. And if you have an imbalance that way, you need to bring that into alignment today. We're never 50-50 in terms of the projective or receptive presence within. There's always, this kind of thing going on, right? In other words, you let whatever the situation you're experiencing determine that type of response, whether it needs to be a more projective response or maybe a little more receptive one. But here we get back to business. Mind, body, spirit alignment with the three, the foundation of our lives. We can look at it as the four, which the energy here today is, or in the cards, I believe, is a four. And then didn't we come up with a four in the day's numerology as well? So I think there's a four there. See, 3 and 3 is 6 and 7 is 13. So yeah, 4. So we have a 4-day total with the month, the day, and the year considered. And then we also have a 4 energy here with the cards. So you're looking at structure for sure, but it's predicated upon mind, body, spirit, and alignment, and having spirit inform the process. Here, we have 2 women coming by admiring what this guy's doing. He's a craftsman, a mason. Pentacles is about our foundation. It's about our material security, our job, our tradition, our family, anything to do with our physical life and existence that doesn't have to do with emotions, will, or intellect, although all of that manifests into it, But this is just the basic structure and foundation of our lives. And now we're getting back to business. Whereas before, it was a little hard to do that because we were so upset with one another. So again, I think that we're talking about maybe this week giving up the illusion that we've had. And I realize not everybody's going to be ready to do that. But there's so much more at stake than simply, I'm going to grab my runes here, than simply hanging on to a belief that's clearly not supported by most people. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be right and everybody else could be wrong, but in this case, it's not the case. And so, I don't know. I think that it's easy to listen to the loudest voices in the room, especially if they're provocative. But you have to think about this for a moment. And again, allowing yourself to be in the resting point of the 7 energy today. We have Perthrow, by the way, which is about fate and about the unknown. It's the 14th rune of the Elder Futhark, a 5 energy, so change. But, We don't know what that's going to be, although I think we probably do. But I think that I don't know where I was going with that. But any event, I stopped and talked about Perthrow and lost my train of thought. Well, it's Monday. What are you going to do? But I think that with respect to what's happening in our lives, and I don't like to take such a global view here, except for the fact that we've all been so caught up in this. Even people who say they're not, they really are. And you're going to have to come to some kind of an understanding of what this really is and give up whatever, has been guiding you. And unfortunately, I think for some of us, it's been the louder, more provocative voices in the room, which is basically what I was going to say here. Sometimes the louder you get, it isn't because you're standing your ground and you're doing it for the sake of other people. It's generally something when you're not making any sense, when you're not, it's one thing if you stand up and you start saying, here's what I know, here are the facts, and you start listing them, and you've got evidence to back those facts up, and you're out there and you're presenting your case, and you're doing it with emphasis, you're doing it loudly, and you need to be heard because it's important. That's one thing. But that isn't what we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of chatter. A lot of chatter with no foundation, no facts to back it up. It's just chatter. It's a lot of provocative conversation. It's a lot of provocative comments. People are having what generally are called men having hissy fits. It's not a fun thing to watch, and it has zero value to the conversation. It's not going to inform you about what the truth is, but if you are energetically responding to it, then you may buy into it. And if so, this card's for you, all right? Because all of that is nothing. It is nothing in the broader scheme of things. Look, you have to be strategic in your thinking. You have to be able to sit back and be in that resting point today and observe the conversation and see what resonates with the truth. And don't be so willing to go for the guy who's chattering and being provocative and blaming and obfuscating and distracting and no, it's this and no, it's that. It's like, no. What did that person just say that was factual? Or is it all just a bunch of expressed emotion and fear at losing, right? I think that whatever is at the heart of what's going on in our country and in terms of our relationships with each other, it's being guided by someone else. And I'm not sure it's Vladimir Putin, although I'm sure he's involved. I don't think so. I think it's something else. There feels like this darkness swirling about, and that's what I feel. I think that whatever is coming into focus for us, it's not the end of the story. There's something even more dark. And the guy in the Oval Office is just their distraction to keep us watching that instead of watching what they're doing. Because trust me, they're restructuring everything. And not in the way that he said was going to happen. No. He was supposed to end the deep state. He was supposed to end all of this darkness, right? Bring truth to everything. Oh, no. It's the complete opposite. It's getting further entrenched. Again, wake up. Wake up. Allow healing and reciprocity to take place. Understand you've been played. We've all been played. Because you see, it's not just his supporters that have been played. Everyone has been. Because I'll bet you most people don't understand that there's so much more to this. I mean, I think we're beginning to know that, but I don't think we know what it is yet. And who's truly at the heart of it. Who's truly the puppet master of all of this. We don't know yet, but trust me, there is one. and whether or not you think the guy in the oval is actually extremely ill, like I do, I look at him and I'm just in horror. I'm like, oh, wow. If that's true, if that's just not how he acts, and it's not indicative of dementia or anything else, or some kind of, disease process happening in him, if that's just who he is, wow. But if it's not, they're using someone who's sick, aren't they? Whoever the powers that be are, who's guiding all of this, they're not blowing up the system to make it better for us. They're restructuring it to make it better for them. Again, it isn't just supporters that need to wake up. We all do. We're in trouble here. And what they're going to put in place may be extraordinarily difficult to undo. And the damage done to this world, not just this country, will be immeasurable. So, I'm not saying this from the standpoint of conspiracy thinking. Even if you don't sit with what your feelings and try to intuit this stuff, all you got to do is look at the picture. This makes no sense. And why is one party allowing it to continue? Are they all part of it? They've got to be. Are they all compromised? They must be. Why? Why is no one asking the question? Why aren't supporters asking this question? Why is everybody following along? And for me, that's the worst horror of all. That we're watching the energy rise again to the provocation and not understand that it's a form of manipulation and mind control. We have to come back into normalcy with one another to protect the foundation that we've established. It might not be a perfect one. Patriarchy may be, all the isms may be all active. All of that may be true about our country, but there was a time when at least we could get things done together, and that's gone. And you have to ask yourself, what's that in preparation for? So, I don't know. I guess I was impacted by that little video of that man that I saw who was so upset over what's happened to his family that they couldn't even come together on Thanksgiving and have a dinner together without it devolving into something else. Again, holiday next week. We have Yule. Yule weekend is this coming weekend. We have Christmas the following week. This is a time for healing and for loving one another, to laying down the arms, to laying down the judgments, and just remember who we are to one another. And remember that there are outside forces trying to tear all that apart and not in service of something better. This is in other words, in terms of the law of one and service to self versus service to others, this is the biggest service to self con I've ever seen in my life. We need to wake up and realize we need to have a new day. We need to let go of all of this, and we need to focus back on who we are to one another, who we are together, what we can accomplish, and know that there's something going on behind the scenes, and it has to stop. So, Perth Row, 14th rune of the Elder Futhark, about fate. But are we going to be the master of our fate? Or are we going to let the unknown, those 10 swords of the unknown, decide for us what that fate's going to be? I don't know about you, but the whole notion of that offends me more than anything else. The idea that somebody else is governing my fate for me behind the scenes so that I end up with nothing and they end up with everything, because that's what's going on here. Well, we have Rubeus today. And again, I think it's indicative. Rubeus, I'm going to draw this out for you. Rubeus is one of the runes from from geomancy, where if you draw that first in a reading, you're supposed to destroy the reading because it's just too evil to continue. Well, I think we're going to say it differently here. They are just too evil to continue. Whoever is pulling the strings here is too evil to continue. Here's Rubius. So we have passive influences in everything, or fire, water, and earth, and an active influence in air. And what happens in air when air gets away from us? Well, we chatter a little too much. We say things we shouldn't. We might cause a little conflict when really we don't want to do that. Or maybe we do, we just don't care. I don't know. Or maybe we think that it needs to happen or something. But Rubius is an evil influence. It's very passionate. Think Mars and Scorpio. But the negative side of it, where you're going to maybe engage in subterfuge and deception to get what you want. Maybe there's manipulation going on. Again, I think that it's at the heart of what we're trying to move away from here, what we need to come back into reciprocity from. I think that this influence has split us apart. So if it truly is the guy in the oval that has his faculties and he just looks like a lunatic and he's really guiding all of this, then he's got to go. Otherwise, he has to go, because if he doesn't, the powers that be that are running this little sham operation, they're going to have still their guy in place so they can continue doing what they're doing. Because maybe if he's gone, maybe we turn our attention to what they're doing, right? To the man behind the curtain. See what that guy's doing, whoever that is. Or whatever group of whoever's that is. So I think today, we're going to explore our fate. I think maybe this whole week we're going to explore what fate has to offer. Maybe not just for us, but for those that are doing this to all of us. I mean, I realize that we've always had our differences, but has it ever been like this? Where you've got people in Congress, members of Congress, that are now saying if this guy gets impeached, that they're going to start a civil war? Geez, how compromised by Russia are these people? How much money did Lev Parnas, if that's who's doing this, because now he seems to be depositing money in these people's accounts, their political action committees or their re-election campaign coffers. He's giving the max. Where's he getting it? Well, we know. He just got $1 million from Russia just before he got arrested, or just after he got arrested or something, right around that time. Maybe it was right before. Got that $1 million, and what was he going to do with it? Start handing it out, compromising? You can't take money like that from someone, but he's an American citizen. So see, it's shadow, right? It's done in the shadows. So what are they doing? Compromising all of these people so that now they have to now follow suit and follow along and not uphold their oath to the Constitution? Is that what's playing out here? I mean, I'll bet you if that's the case, not everybody knew that was happening, and now suddenly they're told, and it's like, oh my God. No, outside forces are doing this to all of us, and we have to stop it. No matter how we do it, we've got to stop it. If it means impeaching the guy and getting him out of there, then that's what we have to do. We have to disrupt whatever this process that is being done to us, this con that we are all living under, no matter whether we supported this guy or not. Everyone is being affected by it. Everyone. We need to let go of illusion. We need to master our fate. We need to reject whoever's doing this. And we need to get back into balance with one another. We need to get back to balance within, and we need to get back into our lives with one another again. Maybe this is the week to do that. Whatever, though, I'm hoping that the man that I saw the video from Thanksgiving, to his family, please come back to him. Drop all of it and just go love this man. He needs you. So I don't care what happened at that meal. I don't care what happened. It's awful, and he's hurting, and he needs you. So no matter what he says, no matter what he does, go there, give him a hug, tell him you love him, tell him it's all going to be okay. That crazy lady on YouTube said so. So anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. Again, check out the blog and everything I've got written down over there. You're going to like it, I think. Check out the weekly Rune and Moon to kind of see what's going to happen this week. At least with respect to Moon and I Ching and runic influences. You'll see that there. The Hele aspect thing, that's kind of cool. So I'm kind of proud of that one. It's kind of long, but I have it all written out how I did it and everything and where I came up with everything. So if you want to check that out, if you're not familiar with that particular aspect, I like to look at relationships and patterns in astrology. So sometimes I'll do posts like that and just explore different aspects that I'm not all that familiar with. And the Hele one I've never written on, so I got to look at it and see what it has to do with, and I was kind of happy with how it turned out. So check that one out as well. But in any event, come back tomorrow. Click subscribe again here. I'd love you to do that, and be good to yourself. Be good to one another, and blessed be.